Today to see why Hickory Valley is a place to call home.
This is a time of year for a lot of spooky ghost stories being told ahead of Halloween, and those are always interesting, but no fictional story can ever beat a true story. This is Jason Tenney. He has Cast Iron Storytelling here in Chattanooga. He's also part of Chattanooga Ghost Tours. We're going to take advantage of him on Halloween. But you have an event coming up this Sunday at Barking Legs, and you call it Fearless. Is that right?
Yep.
And these are true stories of people who've overcome their fears.
Yeah. It's exciting. We like to say real stories, real people.
Yeah.
And we try to bring people through in the community together to share these true stories. And when we do a live storytelling event, we create a theme. And since it's the spooky season, I thought we'd do a sort of nod to Halloween and talk about stories of confronting fears. Overcoming them, dealing with them. And it's been a real interesting experience working with a wide variety of people. We have 7 storytellers that are sharing tales. And it's been fascinating to see how they interweave and they connect.
Okay, I'm curious about so many things. So first of all, I'll say this is an observation. So when I was growing up as a teenager, I loved to read biographies of people.
Sure.
And I don't know how much I learned about what I was supposed to learn, but I learned a lot about their fortitude and their inner strength. And so some of those stories carried me then through my own personal endeavors. That's kind of what this is going to do.
Exactly. What we hope is that when when we take a storyteller, we put them out there to share this story, we open up their lives to an audience, that somehow the audience will connect with that experience. It might not be the same experience, but the emotions, the feelings, that's what we look for. We look for how this particular situation or event affected you. And that's how we make those connections with the audience and try to bring, I also like to say is you might come to a cast iron event as a stranger, but you'll leave as a stranger no more.
So for you to have 7 people telling these true stories, there's kind of a sweet spot of time. Somebody told me once that 7 minutes is it.
We go for 7 minutes.
Okay, that's really interesting to me because most of our interviews on 3+U run about 7 minutes. It's not always intended that way. It just kind of naturally, that's the ebb and flow of it. Something happens magical.
Yeah, we settled on 7 minutes because we thought that was a sweet spot. We thought that you can tell a really compelling story in 7 minutes. Are they always 7 minutes?
No.
But that's the time we go for.
Right. Okay, so that means that you're going to have kind of the setup, if you will, right? And then the crescendo of the story, and then it comes back down to the moral. So I know you mentioned that the theme is fearless, but that fear that they've overcome could be something as simple as a fear of heights.
Needles, losing your cell phone, you know,
that's a relatable
That's
one.
a real fear. But we look, a lot of the people we have like boiled down to that fear is really a lot of times the unknown, and it's that anticipation of, oh, I've lost my cell phone, what am I going to do now? And then people will share that experience. And usually, a lot of times they're funny stories, they're painful stories sometimes. We've had some kind of heavy stories of people who have dealt with certain situations and how they've come through the other side and are able to tell the story, and it's a way of acknowledging that fear. You don't necessarily want to. You don't want to throw the fear away because it's part of what is your life experience, and the fact that you can share it, that to me is a lot of bravery.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of bravery to do that.
When my older daughter was little and I would read her bedtime stories, fairy tales are not for the faint of heart.
No.
And so I would do some of the editing out, depending on how I wanted the big bad wolf to find his fate, at the end of the story. But I heard a psychologist say, do not ignore telling your children those scary stories because it's done in a way that they know that these are not really real.
Yeah.
So when they go to bed at night, they can face their fear.
Right.
And then when they're an adult, they are prepared with how to face the fear.
Exactly.
I say that because we live in a time where I think people are almost afraid to face the fear.
Yeah. And I think that also storytelling is a way to try to understand those things. I think that storytelling is a really underrated art because we grew up with it. People tell stories all the time, and so I think sometimes we take that for granted. And then when we do that, we take for granted the power that a story has. And that's the kind of thing that we live in a region that is steeped in a great tradition of storytelling, Appalachia, you know, and so I wanted to try to capture the new folk stories in a sense of preserving. Part of the initiatives is to preserve the distinct voices that call this area home and celebrate it.
Right.
Right. And so these stories are ways of people to sort of try to figure out what's going on in our life, you know.
So if people want to come, it's 5:30
It's 5:30
at the Barking Legs Theater. How do they get their tickets?
www.barkinglegs.org.
Okay.
You can go directly to their website. If you want to learn more about cast iron storytelling, go to www.castironstorytelling.com.
Okay.
Subscribe. You can get you can learn the rest of the story with some cool information about what we're doing and what we're up to.
Such a neat concept. And watch for Jason because he'll be back with us on Halloween. We've got a fun Halloween spooky morning for you. So he'll share a story or two.
Thank you for having me.
Great to see you.
Great to see you.
At Chattanooga College, MDT